Today I will be showing you how to use our water bladders and help troubleshoot any issues that you might be having with them. I will first go through how to use our water bladders, so feel free to skip ahead at any point if I am not telling you something that you don't know. Here is our 2-liter bladder and our 3-liter bladder. Talking about the parts really quick, up here on both of them, they are a little bit different, but these are the hang loops that can be used to attach them to hydration ready packs so that they stay up. And then they both have an opening / closure where you add the water so you can get water into your bladder. Down here they both have the quick connect port, and this is where the drinking tube attaches to the main bladder so that you can get water through the drinking tube. These are the drinking tubes, and then at the end we have the bite valves, and this is where water comes out for you to drink. In order to fill these bladders up, what you are first going to do is make sure everything is connected and locked. So that means making sure that your bite valve is in the locked position and making sure that your quick connect port is fully connected. And then what you're going to do is fill up the bladder with the desired amount of water up to a certain point without filling it up so much that you are spilling water all over the place as you try to close them. In order to close the 2-liter bladder, once you are done filling it up with water, you are going to take the cap and you're going to screw it on tightly, making sure that the threads line up perfectly. For the 3-liter bladder, once you have filled it up and you want to close it, what you are going to do is take these threads at the top that are like closing a plastic sandwich baggie. You're going to make sure that is fully closed, and then you are going to fold this top part over and slide this blue plastic closure piece on like so. A key tip to this is making sure that you don't try to include the plastic baggie like closure into here, because it just won't fit and close very well, and you're going to want to make sure that the bladder goes all the way through this white piece in here. Once you have filled these bladders with water and you have closed them, the one thing you're going to want to check is that they are closed securely and will not leak. I'm sure a lot of you have already done this before if you have learned the hard way like I have. So what you're going to want to do is maybe hold the bladder upside down, squeeze a little, and you're going to want to listen for any air that's hissing out or look for any leaks. Sometimes there is water that comes out from the cap or gets onto the outside of the bladder when you're filling it up. So you just want to make sure to check whether it's that or if it's a leak. One thing I wanted to mention before we go into troubleshooting is the fact that we changed from a twist connect to a quick connect. The reason being is because we were finding that the twist connect would untwist while people were on their adventures. So that would result in water leaking out or water not going through the tube, and so people were unable to drink water until they went in their pack and fixed it. So if you have an old version of our water bladders, this might be a problem that you're having, and we do recommend that you switch over to our new quick connect bladders. Okay, I'm going to go through some known issues that might pop up, starting with the top of the bladder here at the openings. For our 2-liter bladder, the one thing you want to do, like I mentioned earlier, is make sure the threads line up perfectly on this cap. As far as leaking goes, this is probably the #1 mistake that I have personally made and that I have seen other people make, and that's with all brands of bladders that have this type of closure. I feel like this is something that almost everybody does once or twice if they've been hiking or backpacking for a while. Water can get pushed up and leak through very aggressively, and obviously that is not ideal. For the 3-liter bladder, a way to check to see if this was closed correctly, you can tug on it, make sure that it doesn't pull right off. And then of course, don't forget to double check the closures, like I mentioned earlier in the video, to verify there are no leaks, holding it upside down and squeezing it. Okay, moving on down to issues surrounding the quick connects here. One thing you can do, and you can check this by squeezing this and pulling this out, is you're gonna wanna check to see that this O-ring gasket here is undamaged and intact. Besides the O-ring, another thing that would be really good to check is to make sure that the hose is fully connected into the quick connect. In order to do this, you can fully disconnect it, like so, and then when you go to reconnect it, make sure you hear the click, like that. If you are experiencing a leak in this area, one thing you could check is the seal around the quick connect base here, and really anywhere around the bladder. If you can find or identify a leak that is happening around any seal, definitely let us know, because anywhere that there is a seal, there is potential for a leak. So if you're able to pinpoint exactly where a leak is, that would be very helpful in determining if there is a defect in one of the seals. Okay, moving down the hose to the bite valve. If you can't get water to come out of your bladder, one of the very first things to check is that the valve is unlocked. You do this by making sure it is pulled all the way out like this. Sometimes you can get it to look like it's pulled out because it might be partially pulled out like that, but it is not fully open. Water might not go through yet, so you will need to make sure it is completely pulled out. If you happen to have a leak at the valve, one thing you can do is make sure that it is fully pushed in and locked. Another thing you can check if you cannot get water to come out of the bite valve here is to make sure that this opening where the water comes out is fully cut open like this. Sometimes in production there are mistakes where it doesn't cut all the way through, which would prevent water from being able to flow out of it because it will be a totally closed barrier. So you can very carefully and very gently, if you want to, use a sharp tool like a knife to kind of poke through this so that you can finish creating that opening so that water can flow through it. Another thing to make sure you're doing is resting your teeth on these bite grooves right here. So you will bite down in this direction and not this direction. This is where you will bite down to allow water to come through. You'll want to bite down hard enough that this will open so that water will come through, but not so hard that you are blocking the flow of water, because then you will not get any water. And then one last thing that I wanted to mention about the bite valve is more of a little trick rather than troubleshooting a problem. If you can't get out as much water out as a time as you'd like to, if you just trudged up a mountain and are struggling to breathe and drink at the same time, if you're tired of using the bite valve, or if you have kids that have a hard time using the bite valve, or for any other reason, it doesn't really matter, you can completely take off the bite valve like this. And then once you do that, water will flow much faster through the tube, making it easier and faster to drink. And then when you are done, you can attach it and snap it back on like that. And then the bite valve will pretty much act like a cap. And I did want to say one last thing that can be a potential problem that we've seen. One thing we have learned is that condensation can create a lot of moisture on the outside of the bladder, and this has the potential to get your backpack wet and make you think that you do have a leak somewhere. This usually happens if you put ice in your water bladder, or if your water bladder was in the freezer and then you take it outside where the air temperature is a lot warmer than the liquid inside of it. So just be aware that this can be a potential problem as well, and it is just condensation rather than a full-blown leak. That covers most of the problems that people usually have with these, with some solutions so you can get out and enjoy your gear. So make sure to watch the video all the way through if you need to. That way you can get all the information you need. And if you do have any other problems or questions, or if you just want to send us a photo of where you took your gear because you're excited to talk about it, then feel free to reach back out. We are here to help.